Yes, y'all. This is the Gospel Roundtable right here on KVCE 1160 on the AM side of the dial. And of course, it is where God is love. And I am your host, Darryl McGriff. And always by my side is the bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, my missing rib. That's why she's always by my side. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Mrs. Deirdre McGriff.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm glad to be back today. It's so beautiful outside. And I think for everybody that's tuned in, listening today, just be tuned in because you're going to get another good treat.
All righty then. And around the table from her, the busy bee herself. She says she's single, sexy, sassy, but not forget that she says she is saved. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Kathy Hawkins.
Hello, Metroplex. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Mm-hmm. And around the table from her, the Lady of Grace herself, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Kim Rose.
Hello, everyone. This is Kim. I'm sticking to this and don't say anything. God is good all the time, and all the time He is good.
Boy,
that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I hear you. I got you what you wants to say.
And she said it.
And she did say it, didn't she? And next to her, she said it's her better half. He said he's a bad man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Rose.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, y'all. So, hey, I want to hear those phones ringing. Call in.
You know what I'm saying? No, y'all don't know what I'm saying, do you? Well, let's get right to the point. We got somebody in studio with us, a special guest, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody I've been working with for a little bit. You know, she been back there beatboxing and doing her thing in the back. We be grooving in the back of the, hey, what's up, what's up? Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Miss Bianqua Hunter, made state history at the age of 20 years old, filing charges 2 years prior against her stepfather for molesting her at the age of 13. They went to trial in 2006, and her stepfather was found guilty and sentenced to 4 counts and 99 years. Ooh. She became the first child victim to grow up, file charges, and win a life sentence. Now, Bianqua Hunter is writing a book. She is part of the largest rape, abuse, incest nonprofit organization called RAINN, RAINN, in which she shares her story of at universities, women's centers, and she's also raising money to get her nonprofit off the ground. So y'all put y'all hands together for Miss Bianqua Hunter. What's up, B Hunter, as I call her?
What's up, Dyro?
Hey, no thing but a chicken wing. You know how they say. So everything's good with you?
Everything is everything. A little warmer than usual today.
Hey, but it's good. So tell me a little bit about RAINN.
Well, RAINN is one of the largest organizations in the nation. They actually they help victims who would like to share their stories and who are wanting to go and help other victim survivors. And so what they do is, in fact, a lot of these shows, networks like Lifetime and like your latest shows like Maury, those type of shows, whenever they have topic of abuse, they often reach out to RAINN to contact their victims so that they can have them on their show. Lifetime is one of the supporters, one of their sponsors, is amongst other large organizations like Walmart, etc. So with RAINN, what I do is they'll send me, local people who like to have a victim or survivor come and speak, and I'll go out to churches, universities, or really wherever it is that's needed, right, when they like to share a story. So,
all right, that's good. All right, so now, just when did your story start?
When did my story, the whole event,
the whole thing,
the whole story? Well, I'm not sure if any of y'all have watched my YouTube, but my story is not just me going to court, but my story began when I was like 3 years old. Mm-hmm. So abuse is a big thing for me. I'm very passionate about it because at the age of 3, I witnessed my mom being raped. Mm-hmm. And that's actually how my youngest brother was conceived. So rape and just abuse, I noticed that our community, when I say our, I mean the black community, but just America as a whole, we don't speak on it enough. Mm-hmm. So I'm very passionate about sweeping all the dirt from under the rugs.
Okay. Well, and hold on to that because we're about to come up on a break. But that's one of the things where we talked about not too long ago when we talked about family secrets. Because we say stuff like this goes on, like I said, in the black community, and people hold secrets. They don't say nothing, don't tell nothing. And you never know stuff like that happen if you're marrying your brother, your sister, what's going on in the family, and you don't know why these generational curses keep going on. But hey, we'll be right back with Bianca's story right on the other side of the break. This is the Gospel Roundtable right here on KVCE 1160 on the AM side. And this is where God is love. We'll be right back, y'all. We're back right here on the Gospel Roundtable. If you want to get in on the conversation, got 2 cents to put in, it is 214-787-1160. That's the studio line, 214-787-1160. And we're getting back to our guest, Miss Bianca Hunter. All right, let's start back off. 3 years old, you saw your mother get raped. Take it from there.
3 years old, saw my mother get raped. And at that young age, I knew from that point on that, you know, my mom set me down. She taught me that, you know, your body is your body, always protect it. However, it's a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize is that when a child is being abused, it's a lot of psychological that goes into it, because that offender will tell you things to where you're so afraid that even though you know that it's wrong, you're in fear. Like, okay, well, if I say something, then I'm gonna get in trouble by him. He's already touched me, so that means he will do anything else. He will hurt me even more if I go tell. So from age 3, all the way till I was 13, it's four guys who actually touched me. However, they never penetrated me, but I was fond of. So at the age of 13. I was actually abused by my stepfather, and he did penetrate me. It was penetration involved, and that was so mind-blowing because this wasn't just a stepfather. Like, my mom married him a year ago, but my mom had been married to him, had been with him since I was 6 years old. Wow. So this was a guy who actually raised me. Wow. I had more love for him than I had for my biological father, even though my biological father was active in my life. And so when that occurred, my stepfather was a very well-known gang member. He was into drugs. He had people who respected him so much that he could do anything. So when he took me out of my bed at 13, and when I actually figured out who it was by the scent of him, I smelled his beard and everything on him, and I realized, wow, this is Daddy. Like, Daddy's doing this. Oh, God. And when that realization occurred, I was like, Daddy, what are you doing? And he said, well, have you ever noticed that I never punish you like I punish the other kids? Have you ever noticed that I never make you go on restriction? I never whoop you? And it's like, what? You don't? He's like, because you're gonna be my girlfriend. That's what we're gonna do. You're gonna be my girlfriend. And so I was like, well, I don't want to be your girlfriend. And he said, well, if you say anything, then you know your mama's gonna be mad at you, because that means I'm gonna go to jail. And who's gonna take care of the house? He had the money. Well, my mom had a salon. However, he was a drug dealer, so he had buku of money. So what are you going to do? Your mom goes, if I go to jail, and then that means I'm going to kill grandma. I'm going to kill your sister. And so all these things, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want him to hurt anybody because I know what he's capable of. And so that occurred on 3 different occasions. So it's like it finally came to light when on the last time, it's like he got so confident, he was so cocky, and he was on his own drugs, come to find out, and he did it in front of someone who was staying at the house. And that lady saw, and she woke up, and the next day I'm like, yes, finally, somebody's seen. I can actually get free from this. And so he walked by me in the hallway, because I would just stay in the room. I would if I was at home, because typically I would run away. I would make up a reason to stay at my best friend's house or stay at my grandma's house. So I was actually there because I was on punishment for running away. And so he walked by and he was like, oh, well, don't worry about Annie. I gave her some dope and she's going to be just fine. She's not going to say nothing. So in that moment, I was like, oh, man, so what am I going to do now? I don't have a witness. I don't have anybody who's going to believe me. What am I going to do now? And so when she came to me and she said, we're going to tell your mom. And so we went and told my mom, and when I told my mom, she gave me permission to move with my grandma. And so what she had to do, she had to come up with a plan so that she can get away, because he was very violent. When she confronted him, it turned to her. She became the person he abused. And so I'm living with my grandma, and I'm thinking my mom is just still there, when in actuality, she's taking beatings, guns up to her head, just to keep me alive. And so one of the things he would tell her is that if y'all ever go to police, you will never see me graduate. She would never see me graduate. I mean, from the time I was in the 8th grade till 12th grade, he sent letters to my mom's shop reminding her I'm watching her. I was in band on the field, drum major. He would have someone take pictures of me, and he would send those pictures to the shop like, yeah, I'm still watching her. So finally, at 18, after my mom saw me graduate, I had a nightmare in August of 2004. I had a nightmare, and it woke me up, and I said, I can't do it. I give up. If I file charges and he comes after me, forget it. But I'm not going to let him continue winning, and I'm suffering. So that was the beginning. That's how me filing charges came about. It wasn't nothing anyone said. It was just, I woke up one day and was like, I'm tired of having nightmares, and he's just chilling.
Living life.
So I filed charges in 2004. 2006, May of 2006, my mom actually died with the understanding that he had took a plea deal of 18 years. In July of that year, I came home, and there was a card on my door, and it said it was from a detective. I called and found out that I had trial that upcoming Monday. This was on a Thursday, and I had trial on Monday. And so I was like, what? Trial? Like, I thought he took a plea deal. Well, we begun trial, and the whole time he never testified. He had the confidence that I was going to recant my story, that I was not going to go through with it. So he was so confident. By the time we actually went on trial, he had already been through 4 attorneys because he would not give them anything. He was just like, go ask them. He wanted them to come and talk to me and my mother because he knew we was going to recant the story and go back and say, nah, that didn't happen. But I stuck to my guns. I was like, no, I'm not going to be a statistic. I was young, but I was old enough to know that I was not going to be a statistic. You would not take my life, take my innocence, and take the rest of my future. So I made a decision to go through with the trial, and it was like a real case of law and order. It was so surreal because there was people on the stand who lied and said that my stepsister was in school with me that 8th grade year. My attorneys had to stop and pull school records to prove, like, no, she wasn't here. It was crazy, but when they said guilty, I was like, okay, well, maybe he's going to get 18 years. But when they said 99 years, it was just like, wow. Like, I wanted justice, but I didn't think that justice would be handed to me in that way. And that day I realized I didn't just get justice for me. I got justice for a lot of people because a lot of the women who came and testified during the his sentencing phase were women, his ex-girlfriends who he had beat, had shot in the head, had threatened. They had lived like women, grown women are apologizing to me for not having the courage to file charges against him. And it could have prevented me from enduring the abuse that I endured. So I told them each, like, it's not your fault. It is not your fault. I just look at it as me filing charges against him was my rebellious stage because that wasn't something of courage in my eyes. That was me saying, you're not going to get the last laugh. You're not going to be able to have a freedom, and I'm still living in prison within myself. So that's when I decided, no, I'm going to try. Like, it was so many people, his friends, family contacted my mother. It was threats. It was everything. And I could not let them win. I refused to let them win. So it took me years, even therapy, counseling. I've gone through it, but I finally realized that my story isn't just my story. It's everyone's story. It's every woman's story. It's every child's story, because there's so many people who do not have the courage, or when they do have the courage, they have people who tell them they can't do it or that they won't win. And so now what I'm doing is trying to uplift people and remind people that your voice is all that you need. I didn't have DNA. It was my story. My story when I told it in 2004 to the detective, to the nurse, to the doctors. It never changed when I got on the stand and told it in 2006. And a lot of times that's what people don't realize. When you say your truth is everything, your truth truly is everything. Because whenever you're lying, your story is going to change. You're going to have holes in that story. Right. And when you're telling the truth, it can't change that. They can't take your truth away. And I remember dates. The dates are still embedded in my head to this day. So I knew dates. I knew specific times. I remember whether or not it was on a weekend, what day of the week it was. And so when it came to that specific information, that is what helped me win my case. As far as the 99 years, his character is what gave him his sentence because he was so violent to so many people that the state of Texas felt, well, the jury felt, no, we need to lock this man up for the rest of his life. And so that's what I try to encourage a lot of victims is to use your voice. File charges. It's okay. If some people are going to be mad at you, some people may turn their back on you, but you're the person who has to live with that pain for the rest of your life. And I also try to talk to parents of victims, of children, because we often say, well, that child is touched. That child was just touched. That's why they're like that. But when we say touched, we're also breaking away from the reality of the situation. No, that child was not touched. That child was ripped away from their innocence. That child no longer is a regular child. That's what we need to start talking about.
Yep, and we'll talk about that right on the other side of the break. This is the Gospel Roundtable. It's getting deep in hearers.
Wow.
So, hey, we'll be right back on the other side. This is the Gospel Roundtable where God is love. To go make it right here on the Gospel Roundtable where God is love, right here on KBCE 1160 AM, and we're in studio with our girl Bianca Hunter telling her story and how she's overcome all that mess with her stepdad. Got the women in the studio grabbing for tissues and everything. Got Big George about to drop a tea on me and stuff. George, hang in there, baby. Hang tough with me, George. Hang tough. All right, Bianca, let's finish it up so we can get into some questions. Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, I left off at the trial. I can say I just want to just remind everyone, if you know someone who's been abused or been raped, that let's not write these children off as bad or promiscuous or, other derogatory words. I notice a lot of times when victims are abused as a child, they grow up as abused people, abused adults. Like hurt people. And I'm a very rare breed, and I understand that because a lot of times as a community, we do not seek justice. When a child victim is abused, a lot of times we protect the offender more than we actually protect the child. Like I know people whose cousins were not charged or anything because, that cousin had kids. He needs to be able to work for his children, when that just tells that child that your voice is not important. Your pain is not important. Your freedom from yourself is not important. And it's sad that as a community, we can talk about everything else under the sun, but it is so taboo to talk about child abuse, molestation, or rape. And I've had several people, classmates even, when I share my story on Facebook, they will contact me in my inbox. And I'm just wow. Like, even though I endured a lot, I'm still wowed and taken back every time I hear about someone else who's being abused. Because for me, that took a lot from me. I didn't have the power to hurt anyone else. I didn't have the strength to hurt anyone else, but I hurt myself countless times, whether it was cutting my arms every time I felt bad or attempting suicide. Like, I can't even remember how many times I failed at suicide. And the last time was in 2010 after my father passed. And that's when it finally hit me, like, God is not letting you die. You are not dying for a reason. I realized then that I am articulate. I'm smart. I'm more than my past. I am more than my pain. And there is a reason why I got through everything I got through. I am not a victim. I'm victorious. And so with that, it took me years to finally get to the space that I'm in now to really fully be able to speak about everything and be able to encourage other people and uplift other people and provide advice as far as filing charges. Unfortunately, a lot of times when people contact me about it, I have to tell them that they passed the statute of limitation, which is something that eventually I'm going to work very hard to eliminate, because there should not be a statute of limitation to file charges against a pedophile. Because when you file charges against a pedophile, you're not only saving that child, but you're saving future victims. Because if they do it once and they get away with it, they're going to become confident and think that they can get away with it again. And so that's what we have to stop. We have to really, as a community, as a country, start speaking about this. We talk about drugs in our neighborhoods all the time. We talk about black on black crimes. We talk about police killings, yet we're not talking about the men, the women who are killing our children. Because every time you rape a child, you are stealing their power. And that child becomes hurt, and they grow up and they act on their hurt.
Yeah. All right. Y'all hear that? Y'all hear that? And that's what I'm saying, you know, and this is, like you said, I can't imagine. I done had some down times, but nothing like going through nothing like that. And like you said, you just 29. So, you know, you for be 29 years old and had to go through that part of your life already. And like you said, those were stolen childhood lives where you should have been just being protected as a child and not having to fend for yourself and go through what you went through. That's not what a child is supposed to go through. So, George, y'all, what's y'all question?
I got 2 questions for you. Put it all in one here for you, Bianca. Number one, I'm proud of you, and I support you 100%.
Thank you.
Number one, have you forgiven your stepfather? Number 2 is, do you speak to kids in the foster care system as well?
That's your first question is pretty ironic that you asked, because that's the same question that his attorney asked me when I was on the stand. And like I told his attorney, I forgave him a long time ago. I forgave him because I needed to let go. But I still wanted justice. He still deserved to get his justice. But yes, I have forgiven him. I still talk to my stepsister. That's still my sister. His daughter is still my sister. And that will never change. We have a very great understanding that that's your father. So I understand she's going to have her feelings. But at the end of the day, my relationship with her does not change my relationship with him. I forgave him, and I hope that he has forgiven himself. I hope he's owned up to it and he's forgiven himself, because that's something he's going to have to deal with for the next 89 years or however long he lives in prison. Wow. But foster children, yes, I have spoken to foster children. Those children are actually the children who need a lot of love, because they go to so many different homes, and if they have been abused in one particular home, we often put them back in another foster home without dealing with the help that they need, and they often get written off as, that child is bad, I don't want them, when we're not dealing with the issue that's below the surface.
My question is, how do you address when there is a kid that has reached out and told someone in the family that they are going through something like that they are being abused, and then the family members don't believe them and throw them off and say that they're lying? What do you offer to them? What words of encouragement do you offer to them to keep, to be persistent in that and to try to get away from it or go elsewhere to get help? Because a lot of times, it is somebody that's in the family, someone that's close to you that is offending those children or even adults. And if they are seeking help or going to someone saying, okay, this is happening to me, Uncle Junior is doing this or Auntie May is doing this to me, but mom or dad aren't believing that child, or they're coming over and just saying that they're lying, what encouragement, I know you've been through this, but what encouragement would you offer to someone that's going through that right now?
That's very common, actually. I get a lot of inboxes about that. And what I would recommend for that child is there's always a teacher who is in their position to help children. I would offer them to reach out. I would suggest for them to reach out to a teacher, someone at their school, someone who will take the time to listen to them and actually hear what they're saying. And also keep a journal. Keep a journal and document as much information as you can. Now with the technology, it's so much more technology nowadays that I didn't have. So if that offender, if that offender talks to you, every time that offender is around you, I will record, because they're always going to slip up and try to say something when someone else is not listening. But the main thing is keep records of everything. If you have a journal, keep everything, because it all counts. My school letters to my best friends were used at my trial because I kept those. So they were subpoenaed. They had to testify that these were the letters from the day when I told them, hey, this is what's going on with me. The next day, we all exchanged letters at school, and they talked about what we had discussed over the phone the night prior. So those letters were admitted into trial. Those were some of the evidence that was used in my case. And I would, unfortunately, in a situation like that, you may be removed from your household for a time period, but that freedom, even still, just seeking that justice will make them feel a lot better. If they have the opportunity to go to like a boys and club center, somewhere that offers counseling, some type of therapy where they can get with someone who's actually looking into them or trying to help them, I would suggest that as well.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say also, is that document it, because like you said, you remembered everything, but some people are not mature and they don't remember everything. So I'm glad you said that. Write a journal. Make sure, because that's like I told my wife, the power of the pen is mightier than the sword sometimes. Yes. So if you document it, because especially when you're going into a court or any kind of legal thing, they want to know what time, what date, who was there, what was said. And if you put all that down, and now, like you said, now people can go on websites and anonymously tell on people. You know, like saying they probably didn't have that then, but you can anonymously go on a website and say, hey, like you said, Uncle Junior is doing this and this is happening to me. And then, it'll get back around till you getting helped out.
And eventually someone's going to listen to
exactly.
you. Someone's going to believe you.
All right. So, hey, we're going to be right back after this commercial. This is the Gospel Roundtable, and we talking with Miss B. Hunter. She's throwing down the knowledge so you can get help or be helped. So we'll be right back on the other side of the break. This is the Gospel Roundtable one more time, where God is love, and we'll be right back. All right, y'all, we're back. This is the Gospel Roundtable, where God is love, and we've been talking to our guest, Miss Bianca Hunter, just giving us all the information and showing how she overcame or what she had gone through at a young age. And Miss Kathy, what was your final up on your question there?
Okay, I actually have two. Are parents in denial when a child comes to them and tell them that? And what are the signs that parents should be looking for if a child is telling them that they're being molested? What are those signs?
Parents are often in denial. They, especially if it's a spouse who is accused of doing the abuse, they often want to think that the person they're in love with is not capable of hurting their child. So they typically will go into a denial of, no, that didn't occur. And they force themselves to disbelieve what their child is telling them. And the signs is actually called a grooming process. A lot of offenders, they do it. It takes them time before they actually commit the abuse, because what they'll do is they'll bring the child in. They show a lot of favoritism to the child. Like if it's multiple kids in the household, there's one particular child they may choose over the other ones, or they may take you for long rides. When I look back at my situation, my stepfather, he did do a grooming process. I just wasn't aware. I recall a night where he woke me up to go ride with him to pick up his friend from the Greyhound. And when we got back, he told me about a story of one of his other friends who was having sex with his stepdaughter. And he was like, what do you think about that? And I was like, Daddy, that's nasty. Why would he do that? And he was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And he was looking at me. And then he just started by talking about other stuff. And so when I sat back and I thought about it, like he was already trying to see how I would react to what he said. And a lot of guys that will do stuff where they're touchy-feely, they're tickling a child too much when really they might try to slip and touch them in their private area, or they try to offer the child a lot of things, a lot of gifts, so that when they do go and approach the child in that manner, they can say, well, I got you this, I got you that, and I'm going to give you, if you do this, and I'm going to get you something else, I'll get you whatever you want. You see what all I give you? It's a lot of manipulation that goes into child abuse. They will manipulate a child to think that what is wrong is actually not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then part two of that was the what do you look for in the child when they've been abused? What are the signs that they show?
Right. Those signs are the tickling, the favoritism.
No, I mean, how does the child act?
Does
does the child get like reclusive or
the child? Oh yeah, when you see it in a child, the child typically is very withdrawn. They're withdrawn. You will notice grades going down. Their friends, if they're a female child, they can go either two ways. You have two different female victims. You will have one that becomes real promiscuous to guys because they feel that that's what they're supposed to do. Or you will have the one that doesn't even want a hug from a guy, who doesn't want to be touched by a guy at all. Children often become very angry, agitated. They're just mad. They become rebellious. Their behavior changes. And so if you know that your child is typically a calm child and all of a sudden they're just agitated, or if they don't want to be around this particular person, they don't want to go to this particular house anymore, there's a reason for it. You should look into it immediately. If they're saying that their stomach hurts or that when they pee, it hurts, those are all signs to act on. Don't just take it lightly, oh, it's an infection. No, go take your child to the doctor and see, why is my child's stomach hurting all the time? Why do they not like baths? Why do they not like, because whenever the child is offended, they become very private. They don't want no one to see their body. Everything is a secret. Like, no, don't take. You will see, if you know your child, you have to know your child so that you can see the clear signs, because the signs are often very clear. Right. We just ignore them or we don't pay attention.
Okay. All right. Kim, what was your question?
I'm fine.
You good?
No, I'm good.
You got squared away? All right. Just making sure you covered. All right. So now, what else? So now, besides, the Facebook and everything else, what else would you encourage kids to do to protect themselves or to make sure they get the word out so they won't be hurt?
So that they won't be hurt, or if they are hurt and they want to get justice?
Both.
Well, so that they won't be hurt, a lot of kids have to, when they have social media, I'm so against children having social media because it exposes them to all types of predators. You have people who pretend to be children just to lure them in. I'll suggest for parents to very monitor those social medias if you do allow your child to have it. But kids have to be careful. Like, everyone is not your friend. You should not want to go stay the night if you don't know your friend's father, be mindful of, hey, it's other people in this household and I want to go sleep over. If your mom tells you can't, it's for a reason. They're probably protecting you, because we can say we know someone, but you really don't know that person unless you did an extensive background, which we don't do. Right. It's just, we're not going to do that. Right, protect themselves on social media, or especially with, like, a lot of times parents, they'll post pictures of their kids and tag their school and that sort of thing. That right there exposes your child, because if that predator comes and says, hey, Jonathan, hey, I seen you got the new shoes. Your mama told me to come pick you up. Well, that child is going to think, well, dang, he knows my name. He knows my mama. Wow. He knows what car we drive. And that's what a lot of predators are doing nowadays. They're using your pictures on your Facebook, your tags with your child, and all the information we provide about our children on Facebook, and they will use that to lure your child in. And so we have to be very careful. And me personally, I think we just got to go back to old school before technology and all of that, and just be mindful. You shouldn't want everyone to know every detail about your child.
Exactly.
And you know what? Another thing too, being a parent myself and learning and growing and still learning and growing. One of the things too, I think sometimes as parents, sometimes parents could get a little, like you're saying, they get too comfortable with people. Because here's the thing, when I start raising my son, I didn't care. I'm trying to be funny and but no, you couldn't spend a night at people's house too much. I had to really know. It had to be pretty much somebody that I'm like my only person. I'll be honest with you. I'm just being honest. It was my sister, because she had the same values, morals as me, and how we wanted to do things. Because it's like sometimes you can almost assume, but you really don't know what people do at their house. Sister. So I was very funny. I was just funny because you don't know. You can't assume, because even family members sometimes like, well, could you want to bring John? No. Yeah. Because I don't know. I mean. Close family members, but sometimes the people closest sometimes are violators. So you just, it's so sticky, you know.
And you know what? To piggyback off of that, a lot of times parents, when our single mothers, have to be extremely careful, because our kids will tell us something and we don't want to hear because it's so caught up in wanting to be in love and we found that perfect guy. to where we make them want to be their child's parent. And so if your child is not adapting to that person, don't write it off and just ignore it like, okay, well, especially if you've left a child with them. I'm not saying that they're necessarily sexually abusing them, but it could be a reason why they're not liking this person. Because you never know, if you leave this guy home to babysit your child and then you come back and you notice your child is not necessarily like this guy, they're not taken to that guy, that is a sign. You should put your child first and say, you know what, you and my child's relationship is not going the way I would want it to go for my child's parent, so we should cut this off, because in the future that could save you a lot of heartache and pain. With me, I didn't like my stepdad the first day he walked in, but I grew to like him over time. But I remember when I was 6 and I met him, I had all my siblings on the table chanting, "We don't want you here." And so, and so,
it was
like,
trouble
it
from
was
the start, huh?
right. And so, looking back, it's like, wow, I didn't even like him from day one, but I grew to love him as a father, as a father figure, because what he brought to our family. But it's, I don't know, something in my spirit as a little child told me I did not like him for my mom. And I was proven right.
Wow. Hey, what they say, from the mouths of babes. So you need to start listening to your kids out there. Don't just play it off and put it off, because they trying to tell you something. I mean, it's just like everything else in life. Like when you meet somebody, and we always say that, you know, when you get married, they say, well, he wasn't like that or she wasn't like that when we first met. Yes, they were. The signs was right there. You just thought you were going, once you got married, you was going to change them, and it didn't change. Now you're mad. But you knew there was a knucklehead when you married them, before you married him. Now they're a knucklehead after you married him, and then you're stuck. But hey, this has been the Gospel Roundtable, and we appreciate and are very proud of our guest, Miss Bianca Hunter, with everything she did, went through, all the knowledge that she dropped today. So y'all make sure y'all take heed to it. And make sure you be back here next Saturday. We'll be here again at 4 o'clock on the Gospel Roundtable. I still didn't get to my hot topic, but we're going to get to it next time. We're going to get to it next time. So, hey, y'all stay tuned. Be with us next Saturday at 4 o'clock right here on the Gospel Roundtable. And make sure you get us at thegospelroundtable.com. and the Gospel Roundtable Twitter, and the Gospel Roundtable Instagram, and the Gospel Roundtable everything. This has been the Gospel Roundtable, where God is love. Tell them goodbye, y'all.
Goodbye. Have a
Happy
great
Palm
week.
Sunday and Holy Week.
Until next time, there you go.